So I got my paycheck today, and I was thinking, why is it that we take dollars in payment for work? Why do we accept that pieces of paper with numbers stamped on them are worth something?
Why worry about it? Everybody else will take dollars. You can use them to get different things later.
But that leaves us with the problem of the infinite regress. Who was the first person to decide to accept dollars in payment? We can't figure out when, where, or why it started.
Money has something else backing it. There's a promise to exchange money for gold, silver, or a different currency.
Some money does, but other money, like the dollar, does not. Any fiat currency has no promise to convert, and yet people take it anyway.
Money is a contract with government.
How so? What does government promise to do?
They promise to take it back later.
Exactly. So it is with all IOUs, they are valuable because the issuer promises to accept them in payment at a later date. In this case, government promises to take them back in payment of taxes.
How did they do that?
Taxes can only be paid with that government's currency, and everyone has to pay or face consequences. There is only one method of payment that will work, so people have a need to acquire that method of payment.
But surely there are ways to avoid that.
It is possible to evade taxation for a while, but eventually you will pay. As Benjamin Franklin once said, in this world, nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes.
So people want the currency because they must pay taxes, and they must pay them in that currency.
Quite. Because everyone has to pay taxes, you can use money in private transactions. When you go to buy a hot dog, you know that the vendor will also need money to pay his taxes.
I still don't quite get it. Could you give me an example of how this all plays out?
Certainly. Say that I decide to make money with pictures of my cat on it. If I start using it, obviously it will not circulate at the value I place on it.
Of course not. Your cat is hideous.
Well, short of getting a cuter cat, how could I get people to accept my money?
You could promise to exchange them for gold, silver, or a different currency.
True, but to do that, I would need to get the thing I promised to exchange it for. How can I do this without limiting the amount I can spend?
I don't know. Do you need to get more cats?
That's the last thing I need. What if I were to hire someone to go around and collect my money from every single person at regular intervals?
Why would people listen to him? Wouldn't they just tell him to go away and stop asking them for cat pictures? Isn't that what the internet is for?
What if I had him make two promises? First, he tells them that the cat dollars they gave him will be used to build bridges, educate their children, and protect them from Canadians. In general, he tells them that the money they pay in taxes will be used on things that they want the government to do for them. Second, if they don't give him the money, they will be fined a great deal, and if they still refuse to pay, they will be put in prison. In practice, people have a lot of good reasons to pay their taxes.
I'm still unclear about what we were talking about earlier. After you send the guy to collect the cat dollar tax, why would people accept more cat dollars they don't need for taxes?
It's true that the entire currency base isn't drained by taxes in any given period. However, as I mentioned earlier, people can also use that money in private dealings.
But there will still be money left over. Why do people hold more currency than they need for taxes?
When a government, like the US, enforces tax liabilities very firmly and regularly, people gain faith in the currency. You feel comfortable holding cash and having a bank balance denominated in dollars, don't you? That's because there is little concern that taxes are going away anytime soon.
But wouldn't it be easier for government to tax and issue currency at the same rate?
Quite the opposite. Once taxes have done their job, people indeed desire to net save the currency for use in other transactions. If the government removes too much of the currency base through taxes, that will inconvenience citizens and create deflation. Also, for the government to tax and issue at the same rate precisely, they would have to run a perfectly balanced budget. This is impossible in practice.
I'm still confused why government does not simply promise to exchange currency. Ron Paul is always going on about the need to abolish the Fed and reinstate the gold standard.
How could a medical doctor be wrong about economics? A backing may seem simpler. However, once instituted, it makes policy operations much more complicated.
How so? What problems does it actually create?
A guarantee that they will exchange the money limits how a government can spend. They have to be wary of people coming back to trade the money for its backing.
Why is that a concern? Can't the government just make the trade?
If there is a gold standard and someone comes in with $100 and asks to exchange it, the government must give them $100 in gold.
That does not seem like much of an obstacle. Fort Knox is filled with gold. What could $100 matter?
The problem is there is much more than $100 in circulation. If too many people decide to exchange it at the same time, then the government could run out of gold. With a fiat currency, the government can issue as much as it desires, and as long as it taxes enough and ensures everyone must pay, their currency will hold its value.
Give me the too long, didn't read version.
Once you know that you and everyone else are going to have need of a fiat currency, you will be willing to accept that fiat currency in payment for real goods and services. Taxes guarantee that you will need that currency for something. Thus, they create demand for it.